when they saw 35% of their retirement vaporize in 2 weeks, and all of the chaos around us, people are getting nervous. You're seeing huge money, people who have never ever bought gold and silver before, who are now jumping in with $1 million orders like it's no big deal. I've never seen this before in a market where product is becoming harder and harder and harder and harder to get.
Hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics, and it is time for our weekly physical market update in silver and gold, though I know I focus on silver a lot, but gold obviously very important. So with that said, Andy Schectman, owner of precious metals dealer Miles Franklin, pleasure to welcome you as always. How are you today, sir?
I'm all right, man. Hanging in there. I keep getting told I look tired. I am. I've been working crazy hours, like the craziest hours of my career, up till 2:30 in the morning last night, sending out emails. And I mean, it's a blessing, Chris. I'm less tired than I look, but for those of you that are going to type, I look tired, the answer is, I know I do. I feel it, but I'm hanging in there, man. I'm hanging in there. It's good to see you, buddy. You're looking fresh.
Well, thank you. Tired, yet people are getting their bullion, which is what counts. I know there have also been some requests for you to start playing in one of your guitars, like Jimi Hendrix over there in one of our future episodes. I've got mine. I'm going to leave it right here by the computer, so I'll be ready for you. And with that said, eventful week, as is usually the case these days. I continue to hear a variety of things interesting regarding liquidity issues on LBMA and COMEX. I've heard a couple different people say they think a market maker got blown out on the LBMA, a market maker or two back in the last week of March, explaining some of their problems. But let me stop and let you take over. What are you seeing there, and what's happening on your side?
Well, there's big trouble in London, no question about it. There's no liquidity, and I don't know what the real answer is, but when you see such dislocations in spot price, it's the precursor of nothing good that can happen. And you're seeing massive log jams in supply, and London seems to say that to get product over the United States, there aren't enough airplanes flying over, which is nonsense. That's really nonsense. The bottom line is that there's a rush for physical, and the paper market is starting to blow up because it is a game of rehypothecation, Chris, where far too many paper contracts were sold that rather than how much gold was in the vaults and silver in the vaults, and they're getting called on the mat, and they're doing all they can to keep it together, but it's starting to decouple. And I think you're going to see in general, whether you're up at the top of the food chain there or looking at something like the United States Mint that just shut down, there are log jams everywhere in this industry, from the very, very top, even up further, all the way to the mines and the refineries. And it's only getting worse. And the greater the demand for physical, the greater the opportunity for people to call and stand for delivery, the greater the realism, or the greater the likelihood of seeing something really big happen on the COMEX and the LBMA, which are both arguably walking dead if they continue down this path.
Yeah, it's certainly wild what's happening there. Couple questions on what you said. We've heard a lot. I saw some article by Reuters last week that they're resuming shipping and they're finding insurance for the plane. I love how it's like a who's on first act when these. But I mean, it sounds like you're saying that this logistics issue with the planes not flying is somewhere in the category of the dog ate my homework and I lost it in the sun, coach.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking flying, tens of millions of dollars worth of gold on an airplane, I'm sure you could find someone who would be willing to a pilot to fly that across the Atlantic. That's a lame excuse when you're dealing with this kind of money. And bottom line is, it has nothing to do with airplanes flying. Although the spread between the two, between London and Chicago, is getting a little bit more narrow. It's still there. And bottom line is, I just don't think the banks trust one another, and they're not trading with one another. And so you're seeing massive dislocations. And I've never seen anything like this ever in 30 years. And when you look at the backdrop of all the things that are happening, I think the bottom line is that there was a time when people were okay with paper, didn't need the physical. Those days are coming to an end, and people want physical in their possession with no counterparty risk and no rehypothecation. And try to take this out a little further, I could see very likely that you'll see a massive standing for delivery on the COMEX market over the next 2 months, where these contracts that normally settle with cash are going to try to call the traders on the floor, try to call the exchanges to the floor, to the mat, and stand for delivery. And very quickly, things could get very bumpy over the next 2 delivery months. June is the next delivery month, but I already have heard that there's a ton of contracts standing for delivery here in May. So as soon as the next few weeks, you may see some craziness in this industry.
It's interesting you mentioned that. Again, I feel I have some degree of responsibility not to be saying, well, this is going to explode tomorrow endlessly, yet I have been hearing comments that do mention that. It's interesting. Craig Hemke, who I know you know and has come on the show several times, I'm always of the school of thought at some point there's going to be a short squeeze. He's usually been on the other side of that, but even seeing him write that, he's wondering if we're getting close to something like that. So again, just what I'm hearing. Appreciate you sharing that as well. Quick question before we let you run: what products are still available? What is not available, and any general updates on premiums?
Yeah. So before I answer that question, and I will, I just want to make mention of what I see happening, and as it pertains to that question. You know, over the last 12 years, all the money that the Fed has pumped into the system, instead of it going into the system, it's been holed up in financial assets, stocks, bonds, and real estate. And what we are seeing massively are people pulling out of their financial assets. They're concerned, they're scared for the first time when they saw 35% of their retirement vaporize in 2 weeks, and all of the chaos around us. People are getting nervous. And so the conversation is one of people pulling out on strength, and that asset price inflation for the first time in my career is turning into price inflation in this industry, because you're seeing huge money, people who have never ever bought gold and silver before, who are now jumping in with $1 million orders like it's no big deal. I've never seen this before. I get phone calls that go like this: "Hey, Andy, I was referred by Chris Marcus. I've been talking to him forever. He told me I should be buying gold. I should have listened to him. I cashed out of the market. My wife and I are terrified. I have $1 million. What do I do?" Now, when I tell you, Chris, I've done this for 30 years and $6 billion in sales, I never got those calls, ever. Now I'm getting several per day, every day, and so are my brokers. And so what you're seeing in this broken supply chain, a la the US Mint just closing, probably for the next month or longer, with no guidance on when they're going to open up, mind you. They said we won't open back up till we feel it's safe for our personnel to come back. And I know on your show I've told you it was going to happen. It was inevitable. It's in New York. Who knows when they'll open back up? But when the greatest supply of precious metals in North America gets shut down, on top of the Canadian Mint, which just came back online at a very limited basis, fractional of what they normally do, you're seeing massive price inflation, new people, big money, in a market where product is becoming harder and harder and harder and harder to get. Like I said once before, as rare as hen's teeth. Hen don't have teeth, and it's getting really hard to find stuff. We still have product. As an example, we have tons of silver kangaroos at $5.75 over spot. I'm very confident that's probably the lowest price in the country. We have, what else? We have lots of bags of junk silver. We still have gold eagles, gold buffaloes.
Excuse me, Andy, on the junk silver, just so people can get an idea, what does that come out to? What are they paying over spot on, $5,000 worth of junk silver right now?
Roughly $6.50 over the price of silver. The
Okay.
way you figure that out is you take the price of silver, add $6.50, and then multiply times 0.715. That number will give you the per dollar face value that you're paying, how much it costs per dollar face. Anyways, the bottom line, Chris, is that there's still product, and I would like to really compliment my operations in that we're one of the few companies on the planet who's had a nice steady supply of product, and that's because we've never pigeonholed ourselves to one supplier, as most of the online companies do. I work with those suppliers, all of them, and I'm on real good terms with all of them, but I also work with the mid-tier, the low-tier, the coin shops all around the country, and have for 30 years, keeping supply coming in. And when that runs out, I'm really concerned. As I've been saying over and over and over again, my biggest concern is a massive influx in new demand, a huge amount of money that this industry has never seen before at a time when there's a golf ball inside of the garden hose. And, to get things moving again, the only way that happens, truthfully, is to see things start resuming again, to see the mints open up, to see transit moving smoothly. And I'm concerned about it, honestly. I hope I'm wrong, but I would say to people who are afraid of paying these high premiums, you have two choices: either do it or don't. And if you don't, you're waiting for the premiums to come down. It only comes down when life comes back to normal. Short of that, it's going to be nuts. And I'm concerned that in a month or two, I won't have anything to sell if things continue the way they are. The US Mint and the Canadian Mint don't start pumping things out again, getting product in the United States is only going to get much more expensive. And I'm dead serious on that. At this point, it's not about the price you pay, it's about the number of ounces you own. And I say that with 100% objectivity. If you had $500,000 right now and needed to do something with it, where would you put it? Would you put it in the stock market, in the bond market? Would you put it in real estate? Would you leave it in cash? What the Fed and the Treasury are doing will destroy that. So ask yourself, where do you put it? And that's what people are finally confronting right now. And they're going to this industry at a time when the supply chain is busted. So, I do it myself, Chris. I just bought some Gold Eagles. I just bought some Perth Mint Dragon Bars. I'm paying the highest premiums I've ever had to pay personally and professionally. We're all in the same boat. And I don't have a problem paying the higher price because, quite frankly, I'm concerned that premiums are only going to go higher, not just for my clients, but for everybody, myself included.
So to be clear, when people wonder if the premiums are too expensive for your own personal investing, you're paying those premiums as well.
I'm paying massive premiums, and I'm also buying stuff back way over spot. So, these are different times. As an example, I last time I was on, I don't know if I told you this, but I was on a show recently where 10 days ago I was confronted with buying 25,500 1-ounce Perth Mint Dragon Bars, which we just sold out of. And I had to pay $3.50 higher than I've ever paid for a 1-ounce silver bar in my career. And I had to either buy all of it or none of it. So on 25,500 times 3, that was what I was thinking. Geez, I'm paying almost $80,000 more than I ever have for product to sell. And I did it, and they're sold out. So the point of it is that everyone has to do it. And if I want to have product to sell, I'm one of the only ones who's doing this, who's paying more to have product to sell. When most of the companies are out of product, I'm paying record premiums just to pry it out of people's tight hands to offer it to your listeners and my clients. And I'll continue to do so until there's nothing left. But at this point, it's not about its dollar price. It's about, getting it. And so I would like to reiterate one thing. I'm paying way over spot if you're selling stuff. So if your people want to sell stuff, call me. I'll give you the highest bid price in America too. But if you're looking to buy, I have product, and premiums are kind of crappy, but they'll be better than anywhere else you find online anywhere in America. I can promise you that.
Well, I sure appreciate that, Andy. And perhaps just in wrapping up before we let you get back to it, how can folks reach you if they would like to buy or sell? Or basically, I know you have the vault chain too, so storage. So I know you're trying to provide a range of services for whatever people want. How do they find you on that?
So in this case, we'll have everyone send an email with Arcadia in the subject line to arcadia@milesfranklin.com. We will make sure that your listeners get the best service, the best price, and we pride ourselves at accessibility and accountability. In a world where everyone only cares about price, I think in times like this, relationships, accessibility, and accountability really, really matter. And you'll really realize that when you get screwed someday, when you don't have someone to reach out and talk to. I make myself available 24/7. Your listeners will know that by now. Any of them who've tried calling or emailing me, I'm always accessible. So bottom line is, Chris, have them reach out, arcadia@milesfranklin.com, and we'll take care of them, whether they're looking to buy or sell or just ask some questions about what's going on. It is really, really busy right now, like to the point of 300 to 500 orders a day. That's 10 times or 15 times what we normally do. But we will get back to you within 24 hours, and that's my promise on that.
Well, I appreciate that, Andy. I appreciate giving people a safe place to go and get metals. And certainly that's very much appreciated in these times. So again, you can reach him at Arcadia at Miles Franklin. Thank you for setting up an account specifically for our listeners. And to anyone watching at home, if you do any sort of order through that Arcadia account, you also have my personal guarantee that you get your order fulfilled as requested. So I always wanted to have a place to refer people to so that they could safely get what they want to buy or sell, whatever that may be, without any pressure from anyone to do that. So thank you, Andy. We'll look forward to catching up next week. Get some sleep this weekend. And folks, again, if you're wondering why these things are happening, well, here is an explanation of all of that.